So in this demo, we're going to actually finally make some really crappy animation. So the purpose, what I want to do here is not to make something that looks good. We're going to practice everything that we've learnt so far. So even though you're following along, you don't need to follow along exactly and put the keyframes in the same spot that I'm doing or doing the same transforms that I'm doing. The idea is just to get you to practice everything that we've learnt so far and make a few mistakes now so that when you get to do your own projects, you probably won't be making the same mistakes then and you'll get it perfect first time. So here I am in my default Blender scene, and before I set any actual keyframes, I want to make sure that my frame rate is correct. So we probably remember where our frame rate settings are. They're over here in the output properties, and I want to make sure that I'm on 24 frames per second. You don't have to do your animation at the same frame rate. Perhaps you want to choose 30 frames per second. That's up to you. Just make sure that you change it before you start. Otherwise, it might cause you a few problems later down the road. Okay, so now that's on 24. I'm going to change back to our object properties just so I can see these over here because we're going to practice keying these as well. So here I am on frame 1. I know it's frame 1 because of my playhead here. And I'm going to key my location, rotation, and scale. And remember all the different ways that you can set keys. I want you to practice all of them. But the way I'm going to do it here is just press I and then choose location, rotation, and scale. And because I know I'm only going to be animating these 3 channels, I'm going to go ahead now and choose a keying set. So I could have done this before, but we're practicing. So I'm going to choose location, rotation, scale. And then I know that every time I press I inside the viewport, it's going to add a keyframe on all these channels at once. All right, so that's frame 1 done. Let's go to a different frame, doesn't matter. I'm going to scrub. You could use your arrow keys. It doesn't matter where you go. We're just going to go to a different frame and we're going to change our object here. I'm going to hit G for grab and I'm going to move it up on this location. If you wanted to see your manipulators, you can bring up your manipulators here, or use your keyboard shortcut. I'm going to bring up my move on there. And I'm in global. I don't want to be in global. I want to change it to local space. So I'm in local space now. That is good. I want to do a rotation. So let's bring up my rotation here. I'm just going to change it on all these ones. Practice. Oh, there's my tumble view. Rotate it around like that. These are red because we've got some changes, but we haven't saved it yet. And the scale, let's bring up my scale tool for this one. Because I'm going to scale along just this axis and then, actually let's choose that. So I'm going to squash it really big. Cool. So you notice I've got to change on every one of these values except our Z here, but that's okay. I'm going to key this with the I key and now everything is saved. I'm going to repeat that process, go to a different frame. Let's just go here and let's move our object. So I'm going to grab this down here. That looks like it's good. I'm going to rotate. I'm going to rotate it like that. I'm going to reset our scale with Alt S, and that's going to go back to the square shape. Of course, there wasn't a change on the Z because that was already at 1. And I'm going to make sure that I key them. I'm going to hover over here and press I. Yes, Captain. All right, and let's repeat that process again. Let's bring it down here. Doesn't matter. Let's rotate it on the X. Practicing that. Now let's rotate it on the Y. And I don't want to change it on the Z axis. That's fine for now. And let's just scale it evenly across all axes at once. And I'm just going to practice here. I'm going to drag. There we go. I just practiced a few different ways that we can set keys. Now once I've got a few keyframes set, I can scrub my animation. There we go. We can see it's changing all over there. If I don't like the position of any of these keyframes, I'm going to move this one, so I'm going to grab it, I'm going to move it here. I can also snap it to where my cursor is. So I'm going to, let's snap it to frame 32. So I have this selected, I'm going to hit Shift S and then snap it to the current frame. So I've moved that around, that's good. Now I'm going to jump forwards and backwards using the up and down just to check all my keyframes there. I've decided I don't like this pose. I'm going to change it. I'm going to bring up my gizmos though, so let me show my gizmos. Oops, I'm going to bring up all of them. It's not working because I have my tool selected, so let's deselect that. Now let's bring up all our gizmos. I'm going to change and copy over this frame here, right? So I'm going to change it, bang, bang, bang. I want to leave the scales. Actually, no, I just want to, I want to scale it down here like that. So now I've got this change, and if I hit I, it's going to copy over that keyframe. So the old values are all gone, and that is now my new value. Let's play my animation. You can just hit this button or hit the Shift spacebar for me. It's just normal spacebar for you. Now, I don't like all of this dead space here, so I'm going to shorten my animation just to about here. So I can do that with the keyboard, or I can set it here. I'm going to do it with the keyboard, Control End. So practice setting your end frame as well. And now I want it to loop. So I'm going to take this frame here, I'm going to paste it over our last position here. So let's grab this, go Shift D to duplicate, and then I'm going to drag it all the way here. And now you'll see that's snapped into place. So now when we play our animation, you'll see it'll probably loop nicely, even though it's really weird and it's doing some crazy stuff. So this is exactly what this exercise is about. We're just getting used to using all of these tools, finding which way that you like, practice using the keyboard shortcuts for everything, and making a silly little animation. Now that's done, I'm going to save my animation with Control S. There we go, that is nice and saved. All right, so let's talk about some of the common mistakes that you're likely to make in this exercise. Well, firstly, you'll probably forget to set a keyframe. You'll go to a new frame number, you'll grab and rotate your object and you'll scale it, and then you'll go to a new keyframe number and you'll be like, oh, why did it snap back to the original spot? And that is because you forgot to save your changes. Another common mistake is you'll accidentally copy over the same frame. So I'm on frame 1, you'll make a change, you'll be like rotating it, you'll scale it, and you'll be like, my channels are red, I need to save it, so you'll save it. Then you'll make a new change, you'll be like, grab this, rotate it, scale it, and you'll save it. And then you'll make a change and you'll go scale, rotate, and grab it over here, and you'll save it. And then you'll go to play your animation and you'll be like, oh, hang on, what? And that is because you've accidentally made all those changes over the same frame, and it's just deleted your old data and copied it over with the new. Whoops-a-daisy. So they are the two most common mistakes that beginners will make. And once you've made them now in this practice silly animation, hopefully later on you'll make them less and less often. So good luck, have fun, and I look forward to seeing your silly animations.